What if I told you that the difference between the cheapest and most expensive car insurance in Texas isn't just about money, it's about whether you'll lose everything you've worked for in a single accident? I'm about to spend my own money on both extremes to find out what you really get, and what I discovered will change how you think about car insurance forever. My name is Alex, and 3 weeks ago, my best friend Mike got rear-ended in Austin by a driver with the absolute minimum car insurance required by law in Texas. What happened next shocked me so much that I knew I had to investigate this myself. Mike's car was totaled, he had medical bills, missed work for 2 weeks, and the other driver's insurance company, they offered him $3,000 total for everything. The car was worth $12,000, his medical bills were $4,000, and his lost wages were another $2,000. That's when it hit me. Most of us choose car insurance the same way we choose a phone plan. We look at the monthly cost and pick the cheapest option without really understanding what we're buying. But unlike a phone plan, the wrong car insurance choice can literally destroy your life financially. So I decided to conduct an experiment that nobody has done before. I'm going to buy both the absolute cheapest car insurance policy available in Texas and the most expensive one I can find, then put them through real-world scenarios to see exactly what you get for your money. Now you might be thinking, why Texas? Texas has some of the most interesting car insurance laws in the country. It's one of the few states where you can legally drive without any insurance at all if you pay a $500 fee to the state, which tells you something about how seriously they take insurance requirements here. Plus, Texas has over 15 million licensed drivers, making it the second largest car insurance market in America. So whatever I learn here applies to a massive number of people. The rules in Texas require a minimum of $30,000 in bodily injury coverage per person, $60,000 total per accident, and $25,000 in property damage coverage. That's called 30 to 60-25 coverage, and it's the bare minimum. But here's what most people don't realize. Those numbers are from 1980, when the average car cost $6,000 and the average hospital visit was a few $100. Today, the average new car costs $45,000, and a single day in the hospital can cost $20,000 or more. So I started my experiment by calling insurance companies across Texas, presenting myself as a 32-year-old male with a clean driving record, living in Houston, driving a 2019 Honda Civic. I wanted to see the absolute cheapest and most expensive options available to the same person. The results shocked me. The cheapest policy I could find was $24.50 per month from a company I'd never heard of called Acceptance Insurance. It provided exactly the state minimums, nothing more, nothing less. The most expensive policy came from a premium company and cost $387 per month. That's more than 15 times the cost. But what exactly was I getting for that extra $362 every month? That's when I realized that most people, including myself, had no idea what these numbers actually mean in real-life situations. So I bought both policies. Yes, I actually purchased both the 2450 plan and the 387 plan for real cars, and I'm going to test them over the next month in ways that will reveal exactly what you're paying for. The cheap policy felt sketchy from the moment I bought it. The website looked like it was built in 2005. The customer service phone number went to a call center where I waited 45 minutes just to speak to someone, and when I asked detailed questions about my coverage, the representative kept putting me on hold to ask someone else. The expensive policy? I had a dedicated agent who called me within 2 hours, walked me through every detail of my coverage, and even sent me a personalized welcome packet with emergency contact numbers and a detailed explanation of every benefit. But here's the thing, good customer service doesn't help you when you're standing on the side of the highway with a totaled car. What matters is what actually gets paid when disaster strikes. So I designed a series of tests that would reveal the true value of each policy. I'm going to create realistic accident scenarios using the actual claims data from Texas Department of Transportation, then work through exactly what each insurance company would pay and what would come out of my pocket. But before I could run these scenarios, I needed to understand something that almost no one talks about when choosing car insurance: the financial strength of the insurance company itself. This is where my investigation took a dark turn. I started researching the company that offered the 2450 policy, and what I found kept me awake at night. This company had a D+ rating from AM Best, which measures insurance companies' ability to pay claims. They had been downgraded twice in the past 3 years, and online reviews were filled with horror stories of denied claims, delayed payments, and customers who couldn't reach anyone when they needed help most. Meanwhile, the expensive company had an A-plus rating, had been in business for over 90 years, and had billions in reserves specifically set aside to pay claims. I was starting to realize that cheap car insurance isn't just about getting less coverage, it's about buying a promise from a company that might not be able to keep that promise when you need it most. But I needed more than ratings and reviews. I needed to see how these policies would perform in the real world. So I reached out to 3 people who had been in serious accidents in Texas within the past year, one who had minimum coverage, one who had mid-tier coverage, and one who had premium coverage like my expensive policy. Their stories were going to form the backbone of my testing, but what I learned from them made me question everything I thought I knew about car insurance. The first person I interviewed was Sarah, a single mom from Dallas who had minimum coverage because that's all she could afford. 6 months ago, she was driving her 8-year-old Toyota Camry to pick up her daughter from school when a driver ran a red light and T-boned her car. Her insurance covered the damage to the other car, barely, but her own car was totaled, and she was left with nothing. No rental car coverage, no gap coverage, and definitely no money to buy a replacement vehicle. She had to take out a high-interest loan just to get another car so she could keep working. But Sarah's story was just the beginning. When I dug deeper into the statistics, I found that the average car accident in Texas results in $43,000 in total costs when you factor in medical bills, property damage, lost wages, and legal fees. Remember, minimum coverage in Texas caps out at $30,000 for injury and $25,000 for property damage. That means in an average accident, you're looking at tens of thousands of dollars coming out of your own pocket if you only have minimum coverage. This is exactly what happened to my friend Mike and why his situation was so devastating. The other driver's minimum coverage wasn't nearly enough to make him whole, and since that driver had minimum insurance, they probably didn't have substantial assets that Mike could go after in a lawsuit. But here's where the story gets really interesting. I haven't told you about the premium policy benefits yet, and when you hear what $387 a month actually gets you, it's going to change your entire perspective on car insurance value. The premium policy includes $1 million in liability coverage, which means if I cause an accident, the insurance company will pay up to $1 million for injuries and property damage. It includes comprehensive and collision coverage with only a $250 deductible, meaning if my car gets damaged, stolen, or destroyed, I pay $250 and insurance covers the rest. It includes rental car coverage that pays for a replacement vehicle while mine is being repaired, gap coverage that pays off my loan even if the car is worth less than what I owe, and something called umbrella coverage that protects all my other assets if I'm sued for more than my auto policy limits. But the most shocking benefit is something called accident forgiveness and new car replacement coverage. If I total a car that's less than 2 years old, they don't just pay me what it's worth, they buy me a brand new identical car. Let that sink in for a moment. We're not just comparing $2,450 versus $387 per month. We're comparing financial catastrophe versus complete protection. But I still needed to prove this with real numbers and real scenarios, which brings me to the test I designed that's going to reveal the true cost of cheap car insurance. Next week, in part 2 of this series, I'm going to walk you through 3 actual accident scenarios that happened in Texas this year and calculate exactly what each insurance policy would pay and what would come out of pocket. The results are going to shock you, especially when you see what happens in the scenario involving a family of 4 and a drunk driver. I'll also reveal the hidden costs of cheap insurance that no one talks about, including the one clause in cheap policies that can void your entire coverage without you even knowing it. And I'll show you the phone calls I made to both insurance companies pretending to file claims, and the difference in how they treated me will make your jaw drop. But here's what I really want you to think about until then. Right now, pull out your phone and look at your car insurance policy. Do you know what your liability limits are? Do you know what your deductible is? Do you know if you have rental car coverage or gap coverage? If you're like most people, you have no idea, which means you're driving around with a financial time bomb that could explode the moment someone hits you. The question isn't whether you can afford expensive car insurance. The question is whether you can afford to be underinsured when disaster strikes. Subscribe and hit the notification bell because what I reveal in part 2 is going to save some of you from financial ruin, and it might just convince you to call your insurance company today.